Got shot and hurt. The shooter carjacked a vehicle and wound up at Richmond Road Baptist Church, where he shot and killed 2 women. City Police Chief Lawrence Weathers got emotional while speaking to reporters.
Sometimes things happen. We just don't have a reason why. But we're going to be here for the people of Lexington.
The suspect was also killed, but police aren't giving full details about what happened yet.
As expected, Democrats are criticizing the new migrant detention center in the Florida Everglades.
The conditions that we saw inside this internment camp, which it is nothing less than that description, were really appalling. These detainees are living in cages. They are essentially packed into cages, wall-to-wall humans.
That this is a total cruel political stunt meant to have a spectacle of political theater.
A clean cage is still a cage. That's right. And they couldn't even keep this clean.
But DHS Secretary Kristi Noem and Border Czar Tom Homan say those are just more Democrat lies because detainees are being treated much better than they were under Joe Biden.
Our detention centers at the federal level are held to a higher standard than most local or state centers and even federal prisons. We will take cameras in there and show people what these facilities look like, because if you compare them to what happened under the Biden administration and under the Obama administration, these centers are at the highest levels, and they're even higher than what our federal prison standards are or state or local often are.
They have the highest detention standards in the industry. But these same congressmen are complaining about alligator Alcatraz. You didn't see them complaining about under the Biden administration people being held in a Border Patrol parking lot surrounded by a fence in the sweltering heat. Not a word. You didn't hear a word about 500,000 children being trafficked in the country and them not being able to locate 300,000.
The new Senate report looks into the Secret Service's errors in the run-up to the assassination attempt on President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania last year. Chanley Painter has the details.
The 30-page Senate report blasts the Secret Service for a, quote, cascade of errors leading up to the failed assassination attempt. The Senate report found that, quote, U.S. Secret Service headquarters denied or left unfulfilled at least 10 requests by the Donald Trump division for additional resources during the 2024 campaign. The former head of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle, refuted the report, saying this, quote, the director of the Secret Service is not typically directly engaged in the approval or denial of requests for support. For the Butler rally, I actually did direct additional assets to be provided.
But a retired Secret Service agent says he is confident that the agency will thwart any attack that is brought to bear upon the president, including from Iran.
Sunday marked the one-year anniversary of the tumultuous events in Butler, Pennsylvania. Just days before the one-year mark of that event, the Secret Service admitted that 6 agents were suspended back in February without pay, but no one was fired. The confidence of the Secret Service had been shaken by Butler and the second attempt on Trump at a golf course in Florida. The president says he has directed the Secret Service to give him every bit of information known about his 2 attempted assassins last summer during the presidential campaign. He also made it clear that if Iran attempts an assassination, that country will be obliterated. Ken Valentine served 24 years with the Secret Service, including 10 years with the Presidential Protection Detail.
I'm not sure whether I think so little of the Iranians or I just believe that the Secret Service will get the job done, but I have every confidence that the Secret Service that is with President Trump today will thwart any attack that's brought to bear upon the president, and they're going to die trying for sure. And so I have great confidence that they would prevent that attack, and if the attack wasn't prevented and it came, that they would get the president out of harm's way and thwart that attack.
I'm Chad Groening.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty Keene.
Hello, my name is Andy Miller, and I'm the president of Wesley Biblical Seminary based in Ridgeland, Mississippi. We are developing trusted leaders for faithful churches, and we do that based in the authority of Scripture and in the reality that Christians can be transformed. We do that also through bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees. We'd love for you to learn more about Wesley Biblical Seminary at wbs.edu, where we're developing trusted leaders for faithful churches.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues. That's the name of this show on the American Family Radio Network on this Monday, July the 14th, 2025. I hope you had a nice weekend, and we are ready for, I hope you're prepared for another week of bad news, ladies and gentlemen. No, we got some good news, too. It's always a mix, right? But joining me in studio is Ed Vitagliano. Good morning, Brother Ed.
Yes, that was my coarse and irritating laughter in the background.
When I said bad news?
Yeah, welcome to another week of bad news.
A little sarcastic laugh there. And Fred Jackson, good morning, Fred.
Good morning. I'm the one that has to deliver this.
I know. We have our what we call show prep meeting, which is, yes, ladies and gentlemen, we do prepare for this hour and a half each morning about 8:15 or 8:30 here at our offices, and we always say, can we have some good news? You know,
right?
Can we have and we will have some good news, but unfortunately, the fallen world that we live in, bad things happen, and we have to talk about them and report them. And then we got a very sad incident. I say incident. Situation.
Out of Fall River, Massachusetts. I think it's about 50 miles from Boston. There's an assisted living facility there called Gabriel House. At about 9:50 last night, firefighters responded to a call there. And when they got there, this facility was in flames. And if you go to afn.net, you will see a picture of this facility because it plays into this story because it's about a 3-story building. This building was in flames. When firefighters got there, there were people even hanging out of windows saying, "Help me, help me." By the time they got the fire under control, 9 of the residents there were dead, and there are about 30 that are still being treated. We don't know what caused this fire yet, but, you know, these assisted living facilities, and it isn't always senior citizens that live in these areas. Sometimes it's disabled people. So we're not sure how that all breaks down in this particular place. But very tragic story. And firefighters did their very best. But the fire was well established by the time they got there around 10 o'clock last night.
And I'm looking at a story from AFN.net, American Family News, AFN.net. Good story covering this. There were about 50 firefighters that responded, it said, including 30 who were off duty. So this was one of those things that was kind of an all hands on deck, and they did the best that they could. And some of those who were rescued, I guess, taken to different hospitals. But sometimes, like you said, a fire that's well established, it's unsafe for firefighters to go in, and it's a terrible way to die, especially if some of these people who perished, were, confused, didn't know what was happening, but
well,
tough thing to
listen, also what complicated the matter, I'm sure, was a multi-layer building. I mean, multi-story building, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And a lot of these folks, we're all familiar with assisted living places, and for the most part, the people can get around, but they're older and they can't move fast. But there are some that have to have walkers and
and it's at night,
wheelchairs.
so you're not going to have your full staff trying to help people get out. If there's a lot of smoke, people, even if you're young, it's easy to get confused about where you're located. And people might get into closets. It's just a terrible thing.
You know what our country is going to face, and of course this is true of Canada too, Fred, but and other parts. Our country is going to face a big issue, and is facing now, but going to in the next 10 to 20 years. Care for the elderly is going to be a massive challenge.
Yes.
Problem, and I'm not looking at you guys because you're elderly. I'm looking at you guys because you're 10 years away from being called that. But
I wish I was 10 years away from being called that.
Well, you're called elderly,
Yeah.
but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, like the other day, I was reading about a nursing home facility like going bankrupt. Well, okay, what happens then? You know, let's say you got 100 people in a nursing facility that goes bankrupt. What do you do?
Do something with them.
Most of the times, if you have an apartment or you have something, you can evict people, but you can't evict.
Well, you
people.
will. There'll be no place to take care of them.
If the bank, what happens?
Family members have to find alternatives.
So how how do you guard against that happening? Going bankrupt, because oftentimes these places are run by companies.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And it's a business.
It's a business. And if the business goes under, then what do you do with the citizens, the people who are in there and they can't easily move out? They don't know where to go, what to do. I'm just saying it's going to be not just a bankruptcy. That was worst case scenario, but I'm talking about just care for people who is going to become a real,
because our population is
growing,
aging. The aging. The aged group is growing in size because subsequent generations, and like you said, this is true around the West. It is true in China. People have stopped having sufficient number of kids to make the elderly age bracket no different than any other age bracket.
Right.
So.
All right. Well, this is a very sad story out of Massachusetts, you say, Fred?
Yes, out of Fall River, Massachusetts.
A fire killing 9 people at a senior
30 injured.
Yes.
30 injured.
More information, by the way, if you check out American Family News, AFN.net, you can find that story there.
All right. Go ahead.
Also on American Family News, another sad story, and this is from yesterday in Lexington, Kentucky. A suspect killed 2 women at a Kentucky church after shooting a state trooper. Let me try to unfold the story a little bit. Yesterday morning, a state trooper at the Lexington's airport, for some reason, was suspicious of a car, took down the license plate, somebody call it. It brought up a warning. He confronted the guy driving this car. The guy opened fire on the state trooper. The trooper was injured. He's undergone treatment for that wound. The guy takes off. He carjacked another car, takes off, and heads toward a church, Richmond Road Baptist Church. And again, if you go to AFN.net, you'll see a picture of this church. It's a little church in the country. And this guy enters the church. What we do know now at this point, he was looking for the mother of his 3 children. And what the Associated Press and other media are reporting at this hour is he confronted a couple of women. I think they were downstairs getting a meal ready or something like that. And he asked where his wife was, where this woman was. They told this man, "She is not here." And he replied, "Well, somebody has to die today." And he opened fire. And in doing that, he killed a 72-year-old woman and a 32-year-old woman and injured several others. I'm not sure how the police were alerted to this, tracked this guy to the church, and they took this guy out. They shot and they killed him. So, like I say, a very small church. The way the press is describing it, kind of a lot of family members at this church, very close-knit congregation. But apparently he was looking for the mother of his 3 children. They weren't there. This guy, now deceased, as I mentioned, was well known to police. In fact, one report says he was due in court today for another charge. But just opened fire. He was apparently said, "I can't kill the mother of my children. I'm going to kill somebody."
And then the police, again, the story on American Family News, this church was about 16 miles away from where the trooper was shot. I guess that was, you said, at the airport.
Yep.
And they were able to track his vehicle, I don't know, maybe with a drone or a helicopter or what have you, but they were able to, because they must have arrived at the church pretty quickly after he had opened fire, and then he was killed as well.
So it wasn't a he didn't go into the church looking to kill Christians.
No, there's no indication of that.
Right.
Yet.
Right. It was a situation. What do you call it? A domestic dispute, so to speak. Well, I don't. That's probably not the way to say it. It was he was looking for his wife or his ex-wife.
Well, the mother, there's being described as the mother of his 3 children.
Okay, so he was angry at
Yes.
her for some reason.
For some reason.
He was, had a gun and kind of. Well, he shot out. Yeah, you shoot a highway patrolman. You're going to have.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be after you.
Right.
So they chased him down, but they got there too late to save those ladies. Ed, most churches now have security teams.
Yeah. Now, this was a small church, so maybe they weren't able to have that. But a lot of churches, especially of any size, have people trained. And in our state, where our headquarters is located, Mississippi, the headquarters of American Family Radio and American Family Association, you have protections if you have a church security team, as long as they have been sufficiently trained. So people are undergoing training, and there are always people in red states, especially, who have concealed carry or enhanced carry licenses, and then they do additional training for hostile intruders.
But even so, with security teams and training, there are some things you can't stop.
Right.
You just can't. And if you got a small country church, they don't have 2 guys out front doing a body check of everybody that comes in. So somebody runs in, and you know what I'm saying?
And anytime people, even with a security team, anytime you open fire in a church, bystanders, innocent bystanders.
Who's shooting who?
Yeah.
You got a question.
It's a terrible. It's a terrible thing that we have to have security teams in churches.
Right, I know.
This is a fairly recent development over the last 10 or 20 years, but it's life right now.
Well, any place that you have people that are sitting ducks.
Yes.
You got to think about security.
Oh, well, let me just give you an example. Okay, now I have an enhanced carry, and carry a weapon.
Is it enhanced?
It's enhanced carry license. The weapon's not enhanced.
Tell people what that means.
Okay, so
as opposed to just a carry weapon.
Yes, so there's concealed carry, and this differs from state to state. An enhanced carry, I had to go through a course, an 8-hour course in training to get that. But my daughter and I went to the movies Saturday. Okay. And the movie theater, I'm not going to name it. It's, they have the right to do. You can't carry your weapon inside. Okay. And that kind of bothered me, because you go into that movie theater, you are a sitting duck. And, and you just, and my mind thinks that way now. When we go into the movie theater, I look to check for where the exits are and how would we get out. And there's only one way into that particular theater. And we were up, halfway up where we were seated, and there's no exit in the back. So you start thinking about being sitting ducks. And it's terrible that you have to think about that. But
But you know what? You could just as easily go out in the parking lot and be shot at. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
I'm just saying you can't escape everything.
Right.
You can, but you can be as safe as. I do agree with armed security at a church, because in today's world, and any place. Well, even a movie theater is going to have a security guard, and they're going to have a uniformed security guard. That person couldn't necessarily stop. There's no metal detectors. Right. That person couldn't necessarily. But it is a visible physical, psychological deterrent to people who might want to get violent.
Yes, I left my weapon in the car because they was posted no weapons inside.
Right.
But someone who's going to come in and commit a crime is not going to follow the rules.
Right. That's true. That's true. Anyway, so that happened in Kentucky. That's in the Lexington area.
Yes, sir. Yep.
All right, you're listening to the radio program Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Ed, and Steve Paisley, Jordan will be along later, but Fred Jackson's in with us. Fred's news director for American Family News. Next story, Fred.
Well, let's give an update on what's happening with the recovery going on in Texas due to the horrific flooding there just over a week ago now. They had to pause the search on the weekend because they had more heavy rain in the area. At the moment, they're saying about 130 people have died, and about
haven't been found.
No, there's 160 people still missing. There's 130 people
counted for,
confirmed
dead. Okay.
160 people still missing?
Yes. That's what they're saying this morning. Yes, sir.
That is stunning. I don't know how I missed that, but 160. Well,
it's
the chances of people being alive at this point are, what? No, they're not any chances.
I would think. Remember last week, the lieutenant governor was saying there was a number to call because maybe some people left the area before that flood occurred, didn't think about maybe calling somebody to say,
right,
because their names were on a list for a cabin or whatever the case may be. But also, we have to remind people the stretch of this Guadalupe River impacted by this is 40, 50 miles long. And most people, I think, listening right now have seen pictures of the level of debris. It looks like a war zone. Huge trees toppled over, houses, cars, all piled on top of one another. So it is going to take, literally, these search teams are going foot by foot, trying to get through this debris to discover if perhaps there is a body there. And they're asking people not to try to dig through the mud themselves because there may be bodies there. So it is a gruesome task for these search teams right now, and it's going to take a long time.
They're talking about not even digging through the silt around their own homes.
Correct.
Because people want to clean up after it, but they don't want to make sure that they're not bodies. I was looking up largest death toll in the U.S. by flooding. And listen, there's some horrific floods. The deadliest flood in U.S. history was the 1900 Galveston hurricane, which resulted in approximately 8,000 deaths, and the Great Flood of 1862 resulted in an estimated 4,000 plus deaths. Because I was curious as to if you add those who are confirmed dead with those who are still missing, you're getting up to 300 and probably over. But apparently that is not Hurricane Katrina, nearly 1,400 fatalities. So there have been some real disasters like this.
Where does that river flow to? What's its destination?
I think the Gulf of America. I'm not sure if it gets down that far.
Can you look that up?
I can.
Ed,
I'll
real
look that
quick.
up.
I'm just curious because
I know some of the, like San Antonio's deep down there in Texas, in southern Texas, and some of the impact of the flooding was even that far south.
Mm-hmm.
Where does the Guadalupe River start and finish? Let's see.
Go on, Ed. You're slow, man.
Well, I'm going by the speed
you
of
need
our
some faster AI.
Yeah.
Huh?
The Guadalupe River proper flows southeast for 230 miles, eventually draining into San Antonio Bay on the Gulf of Mexico. What in the world? It's Gulf of America now.
Yes.
So that's where it drains into San Antonio Bay on the Gulf of America, in the Gulf of America, into the Gulf.
All right, that's a very sad, tragic story. We're all thinking the same thing. Where are they going to recover these bodies? You know what I'm saying? At what point?
And some may never be recovered.
They may never.
I know the intention. Governor Abbott says we're going to keep searching, but because this river dumps into the Gulf of America, there may be bodies that
I didn't think about that. Yeah, they may get swept all the way out. Listen, it's one thing for parents to have lost children, but then you do want some closure.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I agree.
You want to know.
You'd want to know. You'd want to find your.
Yeah, and bury them with the family.
Right, that kind of thing.
Cemetery or
know
whatever.
that they're accounted for.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, San Antonio Bay on the Gulf Coast. Huh. Oh, okay. I'm seeing that now. I never knew that. So you're talking about it runs all the way down through South Texas to Victoria, Texas. We have listeners in Victoria into the bay there. So, but anyway, yeah, Kerrville. That's the town that keeps getting mentioned. That's kind of where not too far from where the river starts. The river starts. You're listening to today's issues on American Family Radio. Why don't we do this, fellas? Let's take a short time out right here. We'll take our break a little early and come back. And I don't know, Fred, you got some more negative news for us? Because I could sure use
He's got plenty.
We're going to talk Ukraine and Russia because as we sit here, President Trump is meeting with the UN Secretary General Mark Rutte, and they are announcing the next measures that Trump wants to take with regards to that horrific Ukraine-Russia war, including a threat of more tariffs from President Trump against Russia. So we can talk about that.
Tariffs against who?
Russia.
So we got more tariff talk.
More tariff
It's
talk.
been a while, Ed.
It's back.
Well, actually, I should say sanctions. Sanctions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we can make it a tariff. We'll work some tariff talk in.
I hadn't slapped anything in a while. Let's slap a tariff somewhere.
We'll be back momentarily.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
Sir Christopher Wren, the builder of St. Paul's Cathedral in London, was a famous architect of the 17th and 18th centuries. Once he was building a church building in London when he was severely criticized by a group of jealous architects. He was told that his type of architecture would not support the massive roof he was putting on the building. After much debate and Sir Christopher's insistence that his architecture would easily support the roof, the officials ordered Sir Christopher to put in additional supporting pillars. Sir Christopher, reluctantly and insisting that they were not needed, did as he was ordered. Here was the story of a genius in his field who was forced to go against his own conclusions because of the envy of his competitors. Funny sometimes, the way jealousy gets into our system. Someone can do something just a little better than we can. Someone gets recognized as being just a little more capable than we are. Someone rises above us and we seek to pull them down. It seems that if Sir Christopher had found a new way to support a roof, that his competitors would rejoice with him and learn from him. But such wasn't the case. They turned against him, scorned and laughed and ridiculed him, and sold the public a bill of goods that his way just wouldn't work. There are many cases like that in history. Someone comes along with something new, different, better, and we unloose our jealousy on him. We are so self-centered that we'll not allow ourselves to recognize greatness when it comes. Rather than paying tribute to greatness, we attempt, and often succeed, in pulling the other person down. Galileo knew something about this. And they treated the fisher of men that way, you know. He came with a new way, a more excellent method, a clearer revelation of what God was like, and his fellow counterparts sought a way to destroy him. He won the hearts of a few men, but men in his profession turned against him. He was doing something new, something that he knew would work. He had full confidence in himself and in his work, but jealousy burned in the hearts of the recognized religious leaders. They sought to destroy him. Rather than listen to what this man had to say and see if it was true or not, they closed their ears and would not hear his message, and, prompted by jealousy and selfishness, set about to get rid of him. He was a threat to their position. Let someone get in front of us, and rather than joining them, we try to pull them down. But life never lets anyone climb higher by pulling another down. Well, 50 years after Sir Christopher had finished the church building, some painters were doing some repair work on the church. It was then discovered that the additional pillars that Sir Christopher placed in the building missed the roof by 2 feet. Greatness cannot be destroyed by jealousy. Greatness is always at least 2 feet taller.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
For we know that if the earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, an eternal house in heaven, not built by human hands. 2 Corinthians 5:1.
American Family Radio. This is Today's Issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of Today's Issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of Today's Issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Ed, and Fred. And let me make an announcement. You've probably heard our spots here if you listen to American Family Radio, but we are going to the Holy Land for our next tour in March. I'm talking March of 2026. We're going to Israel, and that trip is halfway full already. So if you want to go with us to the Holy Land in March, and you want to know, well, Tim, how much does it cost? Where are we going? What are the what's the itinerary? All those things. Here's where you need to go: wildmongroup.com.
Wildman Group.
Wildmangroup.com. wildmon If you type WILDMAN group, I can't guarantee you where you go. Okay, so don't call me and say, hey, I went to there and I was offended. Okay, so I don't know. But
it's Wildman, M-O-N.
M-O-N. WILDMON group.com. That's where our information is on our Israel trip 2026. Again, we're halfway full, and we'll probably fill up, I'm guessing, by September, maybe October. But just wanted to let people be aware if they want to check that out. You're listening to Today's Issues on AFR. Fred, Ed, and Tim. And you said you got the big news today out of Washington is President Trump's announcement.
Yeah, they're sitting in the Oval Office right now. By they, I mean President Trump, obviously, and UN Secretary General Mark Rutte. And a couple of things that Trump has said already, as we just mentioned before the break. Trump is saying he's giving Putin 50 days for at least a ceasefire, or they're going to be a very, and I'm quoting here, very severe tariffs on Russia if no Ukraine ceasefire deal within 50 days. Now, the reason he has the UN Secretary General there also is that apparently he has announced that the United States will sell, not give, will sell weapons to various NATO countries who in turn will give those weapons to Ukraine. So Trump made it very clear last night when he got back from his weekend off that he made it very clear in talking to reporters. He said, we're not giving these weapons. We're going to make money from this, but it'll be up to those NATO countries to give these. And
so we're going to launder weapons.
I guess so. Patriot missiles, part of the package that is going to end up in Ukraine. Now, Trump says he's, frustrated with Putin, very disappointed in Putin. the spectrum of conversation Trump has had about Putin. I kind of like him, but now the meter goes to I don't like him, very disappointed in him, and issuing.
Do you believe Trump on Russia anymore? And this comes from a guy who is loved most all of what President Trump's done as the CEO of our country.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't believe what Trump says on Russia. I don't know what he believes about Russia because he's all over the map on it.
To be honest, I think what has happened here is that, first of all, President Trump thought he would be able to get reasonable people, talking about Putin and Zelensky, together. Remember, he said 24 hours, I'll have this solved if I'm elected. He thought that both sides wanted to end the fighting but just didn't have an exit ramp off the war highway. He was going to facilitate a ceasefire and however that was going to play out. But I think what he has discovered is that Putin wants all of Ukraine. That's the way it looks. He wants all of Ukraine, and he has played President Trump,
right,
pretending to be interested in perhaps making some kind of a deal, all while he's prepped this latest assault into Ukraine. And now President Trump is angry at Putin because he's been played. Well, that's true. So we'll have to wait and see what Putin does. Will Putin say, hey, listen, okay, we're going to declare a ceasefire, our troops will stop, and then Putin gets more ammo, logistics cleaned up, and then he pushes again into Ukraine. I don't know.
What about just okay? What I'm about to say is I'm just shooting from the hip. You ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so I know I'm shooting from the hip. By shooting from the hip, I mean I hadn't thought about the consequences of what I'm about to say.
Okay.
So I'm just theorizing here.
Right.
Can we do that?
Sure.
Can we just get a whiteboard up and start with blank ideas here?
Absolutely.
What if Trump were to say, listen, I don't really care what happens to Ukraine, to be honest with you. It's not our country. We don't owe them anything. And if they can't beat Russia, I'm sorry. But we're not getting involved at all, period. Next question. Next question. And that way it would end it. Okay. I think he's upsetting a lot of the hardcore MAGA people right now. Do you know any of these people, Ed?
I know some.
You do know some?
Yes, I do.
I do know some.
You do also.
Are they family members, Ed?
And they're pretty much the same age.
And I have family members too.
Yes.
And my family members talk to your family members.
Yes, on a regular basis.
And they're to the right of you and me. Do you
yes,
know
they
this?
are. Yes, I absolutely know this.
You're a moderate, Ed, in your family.
I never thought I was a moderate, but apparently I am.
Anyway, the America First MAGA crowd. I don't say that disparagingly because in many ways I'm a part of it.
Right.
Okay. But I differ some. But they would say any assistance to the Ukraine is a betrayal of Trump's promise not to get us into any foreign wars. And he doesn't. And they would say he doesn't. They would say Trump doesn't need to do this. Doesn't need to commit anything to Ukraine. And by doing so, you risk the what do you call it? Mission creep, so to speak.
Right.
Where we say we're staying out, but yet here we do this here, and then we do this here, and we incrementally get ourselves drawn into the war and have to ultimately act on a direct basis. That's and I understand that. But I think if Trump would just say, I'm sorry, they're on their own. If NATO can help them if they want, but we don't really care. Well, no, that wouldn't be the right way to say it. We don't feel any responsibility to help out the Ukraine situation. Right. I'm sorry they're going through what they're going through, but that's their problem, not ours. What if you said that?
Well, and let me just add just one thing to what you said, because some people may say, well, how in the world, if we're just selling weapons, how in the world could there be mission?
Are we selling weapons or defensive weapons?
Well,
the Patriot missiles that he's talking about is to shoot down.
If we sell weapons to NATO countries that are offensive weapons, then they give them to Ukraine. They're coming from us, but not directly to Ukraine. But here's how mission creep could happen: is let's say we're just selling, longer range offensive missiles, cruise missiles, what have you, to and we're taking them over to Poland or some other country, and then Poland is going to sell them to Ukraine. And Russia says, well, you know what? The weapons that Ukraine's using against us are at an air base in Poland. We're attacking the air base. And then they attack U.S. Planes that have brought the weapons over there, or U.S.
And it's a
trucks.
NATO country.
And it's a NATO country, and boom, we're in a war. Okay? Yeah. That's how mission creep could happen. So, listen, there is a spectrum of views on this. There are serious and dedicated isolationists who say the U.S. should pull out of our protective agreements with South Korea, with Taiwan, with Japan, with Israel, and stay out of all these things, because 20 years. And this is what I get from talking to younger men who 20 years in Afghanistan and Iraq, and they say, and then what happened? Okay, we lost Afghanistan, and we had that blunder on the part of the Biden administration when they withdrawing. No more of that. No more spilled American blood overseas for interventionism. Okay, then you come across a little bit on the spectrum, and there are people who don't say, well, abandon our allies. No, we want to keep these alliances, Taiwan, Israel, etc., but we don't want to get involved in any more European wars. So stay out of it. Stay out of Ukraine. And then you move over a little bit, and you have people who say, well, we can't be completely isolationist, and the Ukrainians are getting the stuffing beat out of them. Okay, that's just a euphemism for dying, and we can at least sell them weapons. And then there are those who say,
what do you say?
I personally am in favor with selling weapons as a way to as a fulcrum to apply pressure to Russia.
Somebody's right and wrong here?
I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer. I do not want the U.S. to be involved in a war between NATO and Russia, in which case China would probably take advantage of that and attack Taiwan. North Korea might attack South Korea. Who knows what could happen?
Russia has nukes, too.
Yes, they do. You don't really want to have that escalate. I'm not sure what the right answer is. I don't think complete isolationism is the right thing for the U.S. to do, but I don't think we can completely stay out of what's happening in Ukraine.
Brad, what do you think?
Well, the danger is if you don't stop Putin now, what next?
But but the Russians have been pathetic in if you believe their press clippings before they took the field. They were supposed to be the New England Patriots, going to take on the, I don't know, whoever's.
They wound up being the Dallas Cowboys.
That hurts, Ed. I know Cowboys.
I probably shouldn't be making light.
Yeah, we got a lot of Cowboys fans out there, and that was hurtful and unnecessary too.
Yes.
But anyway, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The mighty Russian military was supposed to quash the Ukrainians in a matter of weeks and take over the whole country. That was what everybody thought would happen, and it didn't happen. Here we are 3 years later or whatever, and they're still in the quagmire. That is the Russians with the Ukrainians. Ukrainians have fought valiantly, whatever you may think of them, as a vast underdog, and a lot of it's been kind of guerrilla warfare where they use drones very effectively to beat back, so to speak, the Russian army. The Russians have called in the poor North Korean soldiers to come over there and be field fodder for those stories about that. The North Korean soldiers, they don't know what they're doing because they have no real life experience in any kind of combat. They've only been trained,
right,
to do basically what do you call it, goose steps I don't know if they do that or not. Anyway, they're a show army for that dictator over there. And then I read a story the other day where Mexicans are being recruited to go to to go to Russia under the guise of being given a job,
right?
A nice paying job, so they get duped into that. I'm not kidding. Read about this. And then they get over there, and then they then they get thrown into the army. Mexicans, thrown into the Russian army to go to the front line to fight in Ukraine. What I'm saying, Russia is having real problems now. Putin's up the ante, so to speak. He has started firing into Kyiv.
Yes, he has.
Directly and killing. I mean, we're not talking about combatants. We're talking about innocent. By innocent, I mean non-combatants.
Civilians.
Civilians in Kyiv, the capital city of the Ukraine. It would be like if Ukraine started just bombing Moscow, indiscriminately. So it's a mess, and people's lives have been shattered, and I'm talking Russians and the Ukrainians. But everybody thought this would have been over a long, long time ago, and here it isn't. And if Trump gives, if Trump approves, so you're saying it's going to be, as I use the word laundered. That's a criminal word, I guess. But you're saying it's going. The U.S. President Trump has said, correct me if I'm wrong, Fred, that the U.S. is going to give weapons to NATO countries.
Sell.
Okay.
He made that point very strong.
And then he's told Zelensky, I guess Trump has told they'll be delivered to you that way. Is that right?
Well, what he's saying is that NATO has made the commitment then to the weapons they buy from the United States, they are going to turn them over to Zelensky and the Ukrainians.
That's why it sounds like laundering.
Yes.
To your point. Because it sounds like the U.S. is saying, well, we didn't give weapons to Ukraine.
Why is Trump doing this? Why didn't he just sell it? Why didn't he just sell or give it to Ukrainians outright?
Well, I think for one thing that Trump wants to say, I'm not giving money away. Maybe Biden kept writing checks all the time. He just wrote checks to the Ukraine.
Okay.
So this way he can say, no, we've stopped spending money on Ukraine. We're selling weapons to NATO. And NATO, remember, the NATO countries just a few weeks ago agreed to increase the amount of money that they're putting into their military effort. I think it went from 1.5% or 2% to 5%. I think that's the way it was.
Except for Spain.
Except,
I think Spain said we ain't doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're already broke.
It's already part of the package. Here's the one thing, Trump is giving Putin 50 days to respond. That's 2 months. Why would it take 2 months? Russia can continue bombing Kyiv and these communities for another 2 months. Trump says, okay, I'm okay with that, but by the end of 50 days, I want a ceasefire.
Listen, once you get into, again, I am being critical of President Trump in this regard. So, but he's not an infallible man, because some people get mad when you criticize President Trump. He doesn't know what he believes about this. He's vacillated. He's all over the map. He's in a sort of I think he's just going with his gut, because remember, like you said, he said, "Hey, I have this solved in 24 hours."
Yeah.
Wasn't it, or something like that?
Yeah, 24 hours.
24 hours
during the campaign.
And he got in, and now he's being played by Putin. You said played. That's what you said, right?
I think it's clear. That's what Putin's doing.
Yeah, and he doesn't like that. Trump doesn't like being played. But
and by played, I don't mean that President Trump is stupid. I'm saying President Trump was operating in good faith, trying to get Vladimir Putin to operate in good faith to get something, and Putin was pretending like he was operating in good faith but wasn't. So
right, but I'm with Fred. So why does Trump give him 50 days to bomb Kyiv? I don't understand the rationale there. I just think I'm not talking about the morality of this whole. We can move on to another. I'm not talking about the morality of this whole issue. So I'm going to put the morality of it aside. Okay. Yeah. whether you should try to help defend innocent people from being slaughtered. Is that a moral issue that Americans need to care about if it's happening on the other side of the world? Maybe there's no right and wrong answer there.
And if we say yes, do we go outside of Ukraine and do the same
That's
thing?
right. It's not an easy answer.
Right.
It's not an easy question to answer. However, I would say Trump would do a lot better by just saying what I said earlier. Listen, I'm sorry Ukraine's being bombed, but it ain't our fight, and we wish them the best. Next question. Well,
or
that would be his best bet, other than doing what he's doing right now.
Or if you think Putin is not operating in good faith, then I say I'm giving Vladimir Putin 2 weeks, or I say a week, to decide if he wants to come to the negotiating table, and if not, we are slapping tariffs. And
they don't care about that. It's Russian.
No,
the Russians have already endured every financial.
But I'm saying waiting 50 days.
What is it? Where does that come from?
It's not even a slap on the wrist.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I don't know if he knows what he believes in reality about this. I'm talking about Trump, and so I don't know. It seemed like to me it'd be clearer to say we're not going to get involved, and that's the end of that. It's not a NATO country. I'm sorry these two countries are at war, but it's not our fight.
Yeah.
He would probably do better than that than what he's doing right now. Seems to me. He's kind of setting himself. Of course, he can reverse on a dime.
Yes.
Yeah, he's good at that. Yeah. All right, you're listening to today's issues. Did we help to clarify the situation at all? Do you think right there? What's happening in the
I think we did explain why it's complicated.
I think if he wanted to walk the line a little bit, he could say, well, here, I'm making this great deal with NATO today. We're selling weapons. We're making all kinds of money. We're going to sell weapons to NATO, and we're going to leave the fight up to NATO and Ukraine against Putin.
Right.
But this 50-day ceasefire, that's not going to go anywhere.
No,
because as I say, the Russians have already endured all the economic squeeze you can put on them.
Yes.
You know what?
And you know what? I think Western Europe's buying oil from Putin, aren't they?
I don't know.
I think
natural
they're
gas.
buying oil from. Remember that?
They have been, natural gas and other energy products.
So they're kind of fueling.
What I was going to say is, if you give Russia 50 days, it almost sounds like, in parentheses, Putin, if you're going to finish it, you got 50 days to finish it.
Yeah.
Finish wiping them out. You got 50 days. I don't know. You're listening to today. Who's Marco Rubio? He's the one that has to worry about all this, right? Secretary of State.
In terms of
every day he gets up wondering what's my boss going to say today. All right, you're listening to today's issue. Next story, Fred.
All right. Well, you probably have seen pictures of this ICE raid on the California pot farm.
Yes, we did, Ed.
I thought they were picking strawberries.
That's a song. Picking strawberries. I'm just picking
fields.
strawberries.
Yeah, these are mighty powerful strawberries.
Yes.
Yes. So anyway, it's California.
The strawberries are kind of like mushrooms,
Yes. Anyway, there's the raid there late last week, and you had more than 300 arrested, what ICE is saying, illegal immigrants into this country. And there were more than a dozen kids, minors, they're calling them. And the the Trump administration is saying that these kids perhaps were trafficked kids. In other words, they were on this farm being forced to work on this farm as kids. Jessica Vaughn of the Center for Immigration Studies, she talked about the raid and the fact that the Biden administration was essentially labor trafficking in children, allowing these children to be used. Cut number 4.
This is completely inappropriate and illegal. Under the Biden administration, hundreds of thousands of kids who crossed the border illegally were allowed to stay in the United States, and it became an incentive for smugglers and others to bring these kids in to work in slave-like conditions, not only at places like this marijuana grow facility, but at factories and car parts plants and other locations all over the country. And the Biden administration was basically facilitating this kind of labor trafficking where these kids ended up in slave-like conditions. And now the Trump administration is actively trying to find and rescue these kids who were taken advantage of and often abused.
Now, no surprise, I guess, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, basically is condemning the Trump administration, ICE, for these raids being carried out. They say you're scaring all of these people in California. In fact, L.A. Mayor Karen Bass says we're going to help and give money to these illegals because they're really afraid to leave their houses now. So we're going to restart a program we had in place during COVID, and we're going to give money to these people so they can hide themselves in their houses and they don't have to go out and buy groceries. Here's L.A. Mayor Karen Bass, cut two.
We also are going to have a reinstitution of the Angelino card, something that Mayor Garcetti started during COVID, that will actually provide cash assistance to people. Because, you know, you have people who don't want to leave their homes, who are not going to work, and they are in need of cash. We're organizing food deliveries. I mean, there's all sorts of things that we are having to do now to protect people from the federal government.
Now, there are some Democrats out there that say, you know, the last election that Trump won, one of the big reasons he won is that he was willing to take a tough stand, secure our border, and deport these illegals. But then you have California Democrats like Bass and Newsom who say, no, we're going to stand with the illegals.
This is just a difference of opinion, very consequential. But the Republicans, for the most part, believe in law and order, and if you're going to come to America, you come legally. Otherwise, if you come illegally, you can be deported. And furthermore, President Trump amped up everything by saying, not only can you be deported, we're going to find out who's here, especially the criminals, and we're going to find them and apprehend them and deport them or put them in prison or something like that. But the Democrats philosophically don't believe in deportation. Okay, they really don't believe in borders. So I'm kind of torn on this one. I'm kind of like, hey, if California wants to welcome the world over there and pay for it all, let them go for it.
Yeah, but the problem is you can go into California, but you don't have to stay there. I think that's why I
know, but we're trying to help clean up California's problem by we, the United States federal government. But then you say, well, yeah, because California is a state.
Yeah.
They're part of the union. And to your point, you could go to California and live there and then go anywhere else you wanted to in the country, I guess.
I just think the Democratic Party is making a huge, huge miscalculation. Mm-hmm. And this is to your point, Tim. You just sit there and you go, okay, well, let them make this huge political mistake, because there is no upside within your constituency, I don't think, for the Democratic Party, except for a small percentage of your voters, to sticking it out on this issue of illegal immigration. You have Mayor Bass saying we're going to give food to illegals to protect them from the federal government. You probably have other members of your voting constituents who are American citizens saying, listen, we're struggling. Why aren't you giving us food? You're spending money on illegals, and you're not spending money on us. I think that's just going to drive more people away from the Democratic Party. I think this is moronic for them to stand on this issue, but that's where their Trump derangement.
It was a big issue in the election last fall, and the American people overall made it clear that they want law and order on the borders.
Yep. And in their cities.
Yes, we'll be back momentarily. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
How do you choose to stay informed? Sure, you can find all kinds of sources for information and commentary, but when you want them from a Christian perspective, turn to The Stand. Whether you choose to read the online blog or get the print version delivered to your mailbox, you can rest assured you'll receive factual news and biblically sound commentary. Find out more today at afa.net/The Stand.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Recovery efforts in Texas hampered by more bad weather over the weekend. A second round of heavy flooding, suspending search efforts, and leaving communities across Texas on edge. Brooke Taylor has the latest from Kerrville, Texas.
This weather has made search efforts even more difficult. Yesterday, that weather got so bad that it suspended search efforts. Rescue crews were told to get out of the river around 8 a.m. That's when we got that emergency alert about life-threatening flash flood warnings. The worst of the weather hit further north in the Lampasas County area, where Governor Greg Abbott says dozens were rescued. Among the tragedy, we continue to hear stories of bravery and heroism. The U.S. Coast Guard members who airlifted many of the young girls at Camp Mystic to safety shared one little girl asked if there was room for her stuffed animal. Rescue crews are prepared to be out here for weeks, if not months.
Federal authorities have confirmed that more than 300 illegal aliens were arrested last week during an Immigration and Customs Enforcement raid at a Ventura County, California cannabis farm. One man taken into custody has a history of violent crime, including attempted child exploitation. Jessica Vaughn is with the Center for Immigration Studies.
Under the Biden administration, hundreds of thousands of kids who crossed the border illegally were allowed to stay in the United States, and it became an incentive for smugglers and others to bring these kids in to work in slave-like conditions, not only at places like this marijuana grow facility, but at factories and car parts plants and other locations all over the country.
On the one-year anniversary of the assassination attempt at a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, President Donald Trump told reporters at Joint Base Andrews that he credits his survival to divine intervention.
God was protecting me. Maybe because God wanted to see our country do better or do really well, make America great again, but God was protecting me.
A new report from the Federal Government Accountability Office outlines the U.S. Secret Service's security failures during that attempted assassination. The report, ordered by Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, reveals that, among other things, the Secret Service received a classified intelligence regarding a threat to Trump's life 10 days before the rally, but failed to share the information with other key agencies. Helen Comparatore's husband was killed in the shooting.
I'm completely disgusted. I mean, that disgusted me. How in the heck can you not disclose something like as big as that, where you're going to have thousands of people there and not say that there is a threat? I am just completely baffled.
A well-respected conservative commentator says the Democrat Party has catered to radical leftists for years now, but in the last couple of weeks, they've crossed the Rubicon into full-fledged sedition and insurrection.
On his latest Daily Signal podcast, Victor Davis Hanson reacts with shock to the vile expressions of glee at the passing of dozens of little girls in the Texas floods. One woman said they were all racist and deserved to die.
She said they were all white and therefore they were discriminatory. I've never seen anything like it.
Then there are the coordinated violent attacks on ICE agents in recent weeks.
We've had now 2 organized assassination attempts of ICE agents.
He says the Democrats have always been on the wrong side of, well, everything, but
in the last week, it's become surreal.
Even worse is the inability of Democrat lawmakers to even mildly condemn the violence. Hansen says that makes them complicit.
We're getting to the point now the left is entering the era of sedition, insurrection.
So why has a major political party in America so profoundly lost its way?
They lost the Congress, they lost the White House, they lost, of course, in most cases, the Supreme Court. So they don't have any power, so they're frustrated.
And then, of course, there's Orange Man Bad, who's taking a sledgehammer to the Democrat monopoly on media, education, large cities, social media, and more.
So we're going to go take to the streets, and we're going to use violence, and we're going to do anything possible to stop this Donald Trump counter-revolution.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh.
If we lose this cultural war, we're going to have a hedonistic, humanistic society.
Discover the story of the culture warrior Don Wildman and how he went head-to-head with Hollywood, Playboy, the homosexual agenda, and the Disney empire. The movement Don started paved the way for Christians to boldly stand for truth and righteousness in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Welcome back, everybody, to Exploring the Epstein Files here on... Wait a minute.
Like sound. We need to get that X-Files music up. The truth is out there.
Okay.
We're just not going to
Welcome
get
back.
it.
No, the name of this show is actually Today's Issues here on the American Family Radio Network. Tim Wildman here with Ed Vitagliano and Steve. Skip the Paisley Jordahl today.
I still have Paisley.
You got Steve Paisley Jordahl rocking the... what was that? What's that pattern you got on today, Steve?
I don't know, but it's giving me a headache.
It's the Ed gets a headache pattern.
Okay. It's a nice looking shirt.
Tiny checks.
It's a little.
It's a
Log on to stream.afa.net.
And you can see for yourself what Steve.
You can see what I'm wearing.
What Steve's wearing. All right, Steve, what do you got?
Well, okay. Do you want to go back and take a listen to what Donald Trump said?
You bet I do.
Office? All right.
Absolutely.
I know you were just talking about this in the last half hour. Donald Trump was in the Oval Office with the the NATO Secretary General, and they were talking about Russia, Ukraine, and Donald Trump is not very happy with Russia, he said. And, let's listen to it in his words. Got 17.
And one of the reasons that you're here today is to hear that we are very unhappy, I am, with Russia. But we'll discuss that maybe a different day. But we're very, very unhappy with them, and we're going to be doing very severe tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. Tariffs at about 100%. You'd call them secondary tariffs. You know what that means.
No.
But today we're going to talk about something else. And as you know, we've spent $350 billion approximately on this war with Russia and Ukraine. And would like to see it end. It wasn't my war. It was Biden's war. It's not my war. I'm trying to get you out of it. And we want to see it end. And I'm disappointed in President Putin because I thought we would have had a deal 2 months ago, but it doesn't seem to get there. So based on that, we're going to be doing secondary tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. It's very simple.
Vlad, you have 50 days.
I don't know. We discussed before the break. I don't know what the point of 50 days is. But listen, Putin is playing for keeps. I think he wants all of Ukraine to make Ukraine a part of Russia, and then it becomes a buffer, I guess, for preventing an invasion sometime in the future.
If I could advise, Mr. President.
I'm sure he's listening.
President Trump, if I could advise him, just don't talk about Ukraine, Russia no more. No more. Is that correct English or is that bad English?
Anymore?
Yeah, but in common man talk, everybody
understands.
What you meant.
No
more.
Don't talk about it no more.
Don't talk about it no more. I would just say don't talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
Can you do that as President of the United States?
Well, not if you're going to have the Secretary General of NATO in the Oval Office.
I would just say what? What are you talking about? There's a war in Ukraine? Well, just say, okay. Go on and talk about it then. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the more President Trump talks about it, the worse he looks. Is that a fair assessment? Saying 50 days, you got 50 days to bomb Kyiv, or either we're going to put a tariff on you that you won't even feel.
Yeah, you're saying he looks impotent in stopping a war that he said he would stop in 24 hours.
Yes. There's nothing he can do to stop it other than getting involved directly and beating back the Russian army.
Which is why there are plenty of people within the MAGA movement who are saying it's not our war. We're not. NATO's not involved.
Right. So stop talking about it.
So stop talking about it and stay out of it.
Right. That's what I would say. Just stop talking about it and stay out of it.
I didn't realize we'd spent that much money. $350 billion.
You can't never tell.
You know, you're getting to the point
Where did you get that number from?
Well, that's probably direct aid for under the Biden administration.
Okay.
I'm sure there's.
All right. Well, anyway, so that's the president. The big news is President Trump is meeting with the NATO Secretary General, telling him how we're going to help Ukraine.
The purpose of the meeting, he says that when you heard him say in that clip that they're going to talk about something else. There's other items on the agenda in that office, but he was asked by the press about it.
Right.
If I could just button this thing up.
No, you go ahead.
There is not a single thing that the president has done since he's been in office his second term that hasn't worked spectacularly. Not one. The tariffs that everybody thought were going to blow up the economy hasn't blown up, and a lot of economists are saying they're going to add trillions to.
Already adding billions of dollars in revenue.
Right. And a lot of things that people said that's a dumb move. Don't do that. It either meant nothing or it's been successful. So as long as the jury's out, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that it might seem like it's rendering him impotent or that making him less incredible. And the end of the day, if I just until he fails, I'm going to just assume that he's got something up his sleeve that we don't know about.
Well, that's one perspective. I think Putin, on the other side, I think Putin's a realist. He knows he's banking on the fact that NATO is not going to get their military is not going to get directly involved against Russian troops. The United States isn't going to start sending over hundreds of thousands of troops to Europe.
Yeah.
You know, with the possibility of U.S. and Russian troops getting into a hot war.
Yeah.
So Putin is banking on he like you said, Tim, he's going to go, okay, do your tariffs. Russian people have already suffered. We're taking Ukraine, and it doesn't look like anyone's going to stop me. Ukraine can't stop us. Ukraine can at least push us.
They're putting up pretty good resistance, though.
They are. But eventually, Russia's banking on the fact.
Eventually, tanks are going to roll into Kyiv.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and there is nothing happening on the other side of the line that Putin considers a threat. And if the United States started sending troops over to Europe, then Putin might come to the bargaining table, but we're not. We're not sending troops over to Europe.
Nor are we going to.
Nor does anybody want to send troops over to Europe. And so Putin's not going to stop.
Next story, Steve.
All right. Attorney General Pam Bondi has abruptly, according to Fox, fired at least 3 federal prosecutors involved in the January 6th prosecutions. A lot of papers, a lot of press is reporting 20 people of the Justice Department have been let go, and of course they're labeling it as vindictive, as Trump going after his enemies.
Trump?
Yeah, I know.
Vindictive?
But
where are you getting this from?
There has been.
And Bondi is being vindictive?
No, Trump is. Bondi just does.
Hey, don't get me wrong. I'm all for the vindictiveness.
Yeah,
because the Justice Department and the FBI needed
a good house cleaning.
They needed a good house cleaning. So call it what you want to.
That's the discrepancy, I think, between the 20 you're hearing for the liberal media and the 3 that Fox is reporting. There was a lot of people will argue that all of the January 6th prosecutions were malicious. Trespassing, there's video of the Capitol Police opening the doors and inviting the protesters in. Compared with the insurrection we're seeing in places like Los Angeles and that we saw like during the BLM riots and everything, walking in the Capitol with some flags is nothing. Not that it was good, but it's trespassing. It's not. I'm in jail for 6 years in a dungeon. Bad. So, well, it's not been.
How did we switch over to January 6th?
Because
different story. You said next story.
You said next story.
Related to the firing of the prosecutors.
The prosecutors are being fired. They're January 6th prosecutors.
I got you. Okay. Well, you know what? Did you know that every president has the right to fire all the U.S. attorneys?
Yes.
Across America and replace them with who he wants to? Did you know this?
So well, who did that? One of the presidents did that with a bunch of. Was it Clinton?
Obama. Obama did that to the Bush all the Bush.
I mean, you have the authority
Huh?
to do that.
In fact, when asked,
So Pam Bondi, you call it vindictive if you want to. She said we got 3 prosecutors who were going after people on January 6th, that were I guess you would say, were politically motivated, and I'm firing them. And that's within her right to do so. So good for her. Pam Bondi. You think she'll survive, though, this Epstein episode?
Are you asking me? I think she should survive. I think she's doing a lot of good stuff. I think she's doing a lot of great stuff.
A
lot of great stuff. She made a mistake saying that she had the Epstein list on her desk. I say she made a mistake. She shouldn't have been talking about that at all. She should have said, I have the files, Epstein files, JFK, MLK, have those on my desk. We'll be going through them, and we will do our due diligence. But she said we have the Epstein list, which has, as we all know, created this firestorm. I would tend to cut her some slack. But the Trump administration, whether it's Bondi or Kash Patel, the president, whatever, they need to come out and clarify this and tell the
President
truth.
Trump is standing behind her, by the
Yes.
way. He is standing behind her as his attorney general, despite the criticisms by people that she should release the, quote, Epstein files, if that's what you want to call them. Let me ask you this question, and you guys can both answer it, and I think most people probably know the answer, but I'll have you articulate it anyway. Okay, why does this matter to a lot of people, whether or not names are released to the public from the Epstein files?
Well, I'll tell you.
Why does that matter?
It matters to me. I'm going to tell you my
Matters
two.
to you?
I'm going to tell you my 2 reasons.
Do you get emotional about it?
No, I don't.
Okay,
get
because I don't
emotional.
want to upset you. Or
No, I
anything.
don't want to cry on national radio.
That's what I'm saying. That's not a good look.
No, it's not.
So go
All right,
ahead.
here are my 2 reasons why. Now, I'm not saying it's number 1. Okay, I don't know where it comes on my list of top 10, but this is important for these 2 reasons. First of all, trafficking young women is horrific, and that should never get a pass, or it should not get swept under the rug. And number 2, I think it's abominable if you have all these elitists who have, if there are elitists who have participated in sex trafficking on Epstein's Island or any of his parties, and they're going to get away with it, if they are going to get away with it, without any kind of prosecution, because that's not the way the law works for the rest of the people in this country. And I think those are 2 reasons why MAGA is not going to let this go, is that sex trafficking is horrifying for most Americans, especially if you're in MAGA. And number 2, you don't let the elitists get away with stuff that everyone else has to pay for. That's my
Steve?
I would amend Ed's very good answer just slightly in that for MAGA, they are upset at the general thought of sex trafficking, but they have seen Democrats get away with murder, well, maybe murder, but everything under the sun, and Republicans it's the double standard, and they think that list is going to have a raft of Democrat luminaries and maybe politicians and important people that will finally get what's coming to them. This is in MAGA's thoughts.
Right.
It's a little bit both. It's a little bit it's gross, and someone needs to pay for what they did to those kids. But secondly, it is the retribution thing. Is the sheriff is in town, and for years,
The sheriff says it doesn't matter.
The sheriff says it doesn't matter. I know, but MAGA says there's a new sheriff in town, and we want finally the wrong to be made right. That's what they're.
They believe that they were promised that.
Yeah.
Were they?
That if you're going to drain the swamp, okay, then swamp creatures have to pay if they've broken the law. Now, listen, I'm going to tell you, I don't know if there's an Epstein list. Alan Dershowitz says there is. Others
a
have
purported
said,
list was published back in 2018, I believe, too.
Yeah.
It's a purported black
So
book.
why did President Trump want it released?
If there is one, my guess is that there were a lot of illegal things that happened at these parties, but probably the majority of people who were on the island or at these parties in New York or whatever that either didn't know or weren't participating, And you can't just throw out a list of people who were at the party and imply that they're all guilty of sex trafficking.
Right.
And that's why the Bush administration and the Obama administration and the first Trump administration and the Biden administration, all of them have basically seemed to turn a blind eye, or at least have refused to release anything. I think that's probably likely, but there may be, the conspiracy theories about this being a CIA/Mossad blackmail plot. Maybe that's true. I don't know.
Go ahead,
I think the reason that President Trump promised it was because during the Otto Penn administration, there was so much stuff going on at the Justice Department, and just for transparency's sake, because he wanted to be transparent. He was pledging transparency, and this was the JFK files, the
okay, but I don't remember. Excuse me for not remembering, but did President Trump himself make a commitment to release these files to the public, or not?
I know he was very strong on transparency, and maybe that the MAGA assumed that was part of it. I'll look it up. I'm not sure.
Okay, I don't know. Well, listen, what if he said something like this, Ed? What if President Trump said something like this? Listen, there's a file on Jeffrey Epstein, yes, but he's dead, and furthermore, a lot of the names in there in the files. Hear me out before you start smirking. I know you're not going to. Like he's going to. And just say, if we were to release those files to the public, the innuendo and there would be people think that because somebody went to a party and their name's in there that they're pedophiles.
Right.
It would ruin a lot of people's lives potentially, and I'm not willing to do that. So the people who were responsible for this were incriminated. Jeffrey Epstein's dead. His top lieutenant is in jail,
Maxwell.
And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Then say that. Then say
what would be wrong with saying that?
I think there'd be nothing wrong with saying that, but I think they need to come completely clean. They need to say, they need to answer the questions. Were there video cameras on Epstein Island? Do you know who participated in the trafficking? I don't want to get any more, clear than that. And are those people going to be prosecuted? Those kinds of questions need to be answered. Were people blackmailed?
But President Trump is acting like, what are you guys still talking about Jeffrey Epstein for?
That's not a good look. No one's letting go of this until they find out the truth. And I'm not sure we'll ever find out the truth.
All right. You're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim,
what were you going to say?
According to, is it Grok? Is that Google's AI assistant that President Trump
did? He was a tight end for the New England Patriots.
He was.
He was a very good one, Grok was. So he's doing AI?
He's doing AI now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't know.
Yeah. I've heard that guy talk. I've heard Gronk talk.
What about a versatile guy? He's also doing USAA commercials. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
According to Google AI, Donald Trump did repeatedly suggest he would release the Epstein files, including the purported client list during his presidential campaign. Bondi also fueled speculations that there was such a list. Grok has been known to be wrong about everything except being a receiver in AARP or USAA or whatever.
USAA.
So, but that's
it's him and that Sam Elliott. Is that his name?
Yeah.
The guy who's in the guy's in half the cowboy movies now.
Yeah.
In the last 40 years, Sam Elliott. Go ahead. It's next story.
All right. There's an interesting gathering going on this afternoon at the White House. President Trump will recognize CEOs and business leaders who donate their time to faith-based charities and encourage them to continue investing. This is being hosted by the White House Faith Office. The president is scheduled to attend. Also attending will be founders of Hobby Lobby's David Green, Jockey International's Deborah Waller, Quest Events, Leo Dunlap, Albert Huddleston of Atheon Energy, Shopping Material Handling founder Jimmy Shapa, others. These are CEOs that have been donated to faith-based causes, and several secretaries of state secretaries in the cabinet will be at this event. It is the first of its kind. The president making faith-based issues a big part of his presidency.
These are things that President Trump does really, really well in terms of appealing to his base, and it's a good thing to have these faith leaders at the White House. I like this.
The office, the faith-based office in the White House is different than they've had faith-based offices since I think Obama, maybe Bush. Bush even had people that help with faith-based and community services and such. But this is Donald Trump is the first president to actually put that office in the West Wing.
That's true.
It's feet from the Oval Office, and he's put a lot of energy and priority into faith-based issues, and his faith advisors, our friend Robert Jeffress and Sammy Rodriguez and Gary Bauer, they're all frequent guests in the Oval Office praying for the president. He very much covets their counsel.
I looked this up within the last week or two, how many people in the United States claim to be Christians. Now, obviously, that can vary in terms of whether people are truly Christian.
Christian?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But 260 million people in our country identify as being a part of the Christian faith community. That's a lot of people, okay? I'm not saying all of them are, evangelicals or what have you, but that's a lot of people. And so it is smart for a president from either political party to take faith of those Americans seriously.
Amen.
Yep.
I agree. Hey, Steve, can you give me I've been waiting on this, a Rosie O'Donnell update. I wonder,
yeah.
Where in the world is Rosie O'Donnell and what's happening?
Rosie O'Donnell went to Ireland.
She went to Ireland.
She was going to Ireland because she just couldn't exist in a land where Donald Trump was president. I think she was going to be.
Lost the accent.
I totally did. She was going to be joined maybe by hosts of The View. I don't know, but she went to Ireland, and turns out
has she been on President Trump's mind?
She has been. Actually, she's been on.
How so, Steve?
President Trump has been trolling her. I think there's been a little bit of a dispute going on between the two. She's never been a big Trump fan. He's never been a big Rosie O'Donnell fan.
They hate each other.
They really do.
He calls her Big Rosie.
Yeah.
So I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. So I think she's thinking of coming back anyway. Also, Ellen DeGeneres, shock, is taking Rosie O'Donnell's side on this.
No, well, what sparked
the lesbian fan?
President Trump went on Truth Social, which is like X, to say that he's thinking about revoking her citizenship.
That's right.
I don't.
So he's going to strip her of her citizenship. He said.
I don't think he can do that. Huh? I don't think he can do that. Can he? Can you just?
I don't think so.
I don't
think you'd have to have some kind of a well, even then, if you
listen, I'm just going to say, if I were Donald Trump, I'm not. He is as unique as they come.
Unicorn.
There's no stopping him from trolling Rosie O'Donnell, but she is a D-list actress, maybe E, F, G. I don't know how far down the list she is. If I was advising, I'd say, President Trump, this is slumming. You're the president. You're the most powerful man in the free world, and probably the most powerful man in the world.
Right.
The leader of the free world. Don't get into a contest.
Be careful.
Yeah, I'm trying a contest with Rosie O'Donnell, because you're going to come out stinking too.
Gronk says that the president cannot do that.
Yeah, I didn't think he could.
He's
anyway.
Trolling.
He's trolling. All right, thank you, Steve.
My pleasure.
Well, thanks to Ed and Fred and Brent Creeley, our producer. We had no guest today. We did this all on our own.
We were guest free.
Quite an accomplishment. An hour and a half with no guest.
That's right. It shows you the brain power within this studio.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, see you tomorrow, everybody. Have a great day. Keep listening to AFR.
Hello, everybody. I'm Walker Wildman, Vice President here at American Family.